Thursday night, the 8th of February 1855, was marked by a heavy fall of snow, followed by rain and boisterous wind from the east. The return of daylight revealed the ramblings of some most busy and mysterious animal, endowed with the power of ubiquity, as its footprints were to be seen in all sorts of unaccountable places, on the tops of houses, narrow walls, in gardens and in courtyards enclosed by high walls and palings, as well as in the open fields. There is hardly a garden in Lympstone where his footprints were not observable, and in this parish he seems to have gambolled about with inexpressible activity. The impression of the foot closely resembles that of a donkey's shoe. The creature seems to have advanced to the doors of several houses, and then to have retracted its steps, but no one is able to discern the starting or resting point of this mysterious visitor. Everyone is wondering, but no one is able to explain the mystery. The poor are full of superstition and consider it little short of a visit from old Satan or some of his imps. Hello and welcome. So in today's video we are going to be having a little look at the story of the Devil's Hoof Prints. When their inhabitants around the Exe Estuary woke on the 9th of February 1855, they found that it had snowed heavily. This occurrence would normally be met with some sort of joy and happiness, but this morning the inhabitants were somewhat shocked and disturbed, for in the snow there was looked like hoof prints. The hoof prints were around 4 inches long and 3 inches wide, and covered a distance of up to 100 miles, covering more than 30 locations across Devon and a couple in Dorset. They went from Exmouth up to Topsham, and then across the Exe Estuary to Dawlish and Tynemouth. There were reports that the footprints appeared in Totnes and Torquay, in Weymouth, Dorset, and also reports that they appeared in Lincolnshire. They appeared to have been made by a two-legged creature instead of a four-legged creature. But what was most strange was the directions the hoof prints travelled. The owner's hoof prints travelled in a straight line, travelling up and over any house, wall and haystack, and even travelling up drain pipes that were in its way. Some of the footprints stopped at people's front doors as if their owner had visited the home. People were at a loss as to what or who had caused the hoof prints, with the more superstitious of folk suggesting that the hoof prints had been made by the devil himself. This theory took off, with many people fearing that the devil had walked in Devon that night. So there are of course people who are sceptical about the whole thing. One of their arguments is that no one would have been able to actually confirm that the hoof prints went for this long, for the 100 miles, because no one would have been able to walk that 100 miles in one day to confirm it to be true. And these skeptics, they also point out that the descriptions of the hoof prints differ from person to person. Mike Dash concludes that in his 14 Studies article that some of these footprints were hoaxes, some were made by donkeys, and that some were made by wood mice. Now there have been other suggestions as to what had caused the prints in the snow. So author Geoffrey Household suggests that the prints could have been made by an experimental balloon that had been accidentally released from Devonport Dockyard. The prints would have been made by two shackles at the end of the balloon's mooring ropes. So Mike Dash, who I mentioned earlier, he said that the prints could have been made by a hopping mouse. This is because the prints that are left behind when a mouse hops look like a hoof print. And this could also have been how the hoof prints ended up on the tops of walls and on roofs, with a mouse just scurrying up there. Now this suggestion was actually also put forward in March 1885 when Thomas Fox, a brewer and brickmaker from Bullingdon, sent illustrations into the Illustrated London News showing how rodents could make hoof-like prints. Now kangaroos have also been suggested as to making the hoof prints. Reverend G.M. Musgrove, who was actually the vicar at one of the parishes where the footprints appeared, wrote to their Illustrated London News in 1885 saying that there were reports that a couple of kangaroos from a private menagerie in Sidmouth had escaped, and this could have been what caused the footprints. Though Reverend Musgrove did actually admit that he had made this kangaroo thing up to try and calm down his parishioners who really thought that the devil had visited them. 19th century English biologist Sir Richard Owen wrote a letter to the Illustrated London News saying that the footprints could have been made by a badger. He said that badgers leave footprints that are larger than what their normal size would be, and the prints could have been made by many badgers looking for food. More fantastical, it has been suggested that the creature that made the hoof print was a uniped, a rarely seen mammal that had first been spotted in Labrador by an Icelandic explorer in 1001. Now, there has actually also been other instances of hoof prints appearing in the snow from other countries around the world. In 1840, the Times newspaper reported strange animal tracks that had appeared in the snow in Scotland. And in 1855, in response to the devil hoof prints, someone wrote in to a newspaper telling the story of when strange footprints appeared in the ground in Poland, with Polish locals attributing them to supernatural beings. So, did some animal make these marks in the snow, or did the devil indeed visit Devon? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.